The story begins inside a quiet home where a woman had spent years trying to prove that she truly belonged in her husband's family. For 5 long years, she carried the title of wife, yet in the eyes of her in-laws, she was never fully accepted. The reason was simple, cruel, and repeated so often that it slowly became part of her identity. She had not given birth to a child. At first, the pressure was subtle. It appeared in the form of quiet comments and careful questions during family gatherings. Older relatives would smile politely and ask when the good news would come. Some offered advice disguised as concern. Others suggested prayers, herbs, or traditions that were supposed to help women conceive. But as the years passed, the quiet questions slowly transformed into accusations. Family gatherings became uncomfortable interrogations. Conversations that once revolved around food and laughter now revolved around her womb. Relatives began speaking about her as if she were the obstacle standing between their son and the grandchildren they believed he deserved. What made it worse was her husband's silence. He never openly insulted her, but he also never defended her. Whenever his mother criticized her or his relatives whispered about her infertility, he simply sat quietly, allowing the insults to fill the room. Later, when they were alone, he would gently tell her that arguing with family would only make things worse. It was easier, he said, to ignore them. But ignoring cruelty does not make it disappear. The woman tried everything she could think of. She visited hospitals and underwent medical tests. She prayed late into the night. She fasted and asked God for answers. She followed traditional remedies recommended by older relatives. She gave to charities that supported women and children, hoping that kindness might somehow open the door to her own motherhood. Each time the test results returned, they told the same story. There was nothing wrong with her. Her body was healthy. Her womb was healthy. There was no medical reason she could not have children. Still, the accusations continued. Her mother-in-law remained the loudest voice among them. No matter what the doctors said, she refused to accept the possibility that her son could be part of the problem. In her mind, the fault always belonged to the woman who had married into the family. The emotional weight of constantly being blamed began to reshape the way the woman saw her marriage. What had once been love slowly began to feel like loneliness inside a shared house. She lived beside her husband, yet somehow she felt more alone with him than she had ever felt by herself. Then one evening, something happened that completely shifted the story. While passing her husband's study room, she overheard a conversation that was never meant for her ears. Her husband was speaking on the phone. At first, the conversation sounded normal, even casual. But the tone changed when the woman on the other end began talking about a pregnancy. The words froze her in place. She stood quietly outside the door as the conversation continued, unable to believe what she was hearing. What shocked her even more was hearing her husband calmly discuss plans for the future with that woman. He spoke about eventually divorcing his wife once certain financial matters were settled. The way he described it sounded almost like a business strategy rather than the end of a marriage. The words were calm and calculated, as if the relationship he shared with his wife had already become nothing more than a temporary arrangement. In that moment, the woman realized two painful truths at the same time. The first truth was that her husband had been unfaithful. The second truth was even more disturbing. The accusations about her infertility had been built on a lie. Instead of confronting him immediately, she chose silence. Over the following weeks, she began quietly investigating everything. She reviewed medical records, scheduled another fertility appointment, and gathered information about her husband's activities without allowing him to suspect anything. When the final results arrived from the hospital, they revealed something shocking. There had never been any medical problem with her ability to have children. In fact, the real medical issue belonged to her husband. The discovery explained everything. If her husband was unable to have children, then the pregnancy he had discussed on the phone could not possibly be his child. With that knowledge, she began preparing something far more powerful than an argument. she began building evidence. Eventually, she chose the perfect moment to reveal the truth. During a family gathering where relatives once again questioned her ability to have children, she calmly presented the medical records proving that she was not infertile. The documents revealed something far more embarrassing. The infertility belonged to the man they had defended for years. The same man who had never protected her, never comforted her, and never stopped the insults directed at his wife. The room fell silent as the truth settled over everyone present. Confusion spread across their faces. Some refused to believe it. Others stared at the documents in disbelief as the reality of the situation slowly became impossible to ignore. But the revelation did not end there. The woman also revealed the evidence of her husband's affair and his plan to divorce her after gaining access to certain financial assets she had built through years of hard work. By the time the truth finished unfolding, the carefully maintained image of the marriage had completely collapsed. The man who once allowed his family to shame his wife now faced humiliation in front of the very people who had supported him. And the woman who had been called Barren for years walked away not only with her dignity intact, but with control of the life she had built for herself. Months later, her bread business began to flourish, growing beyond the small home operation it once was. What had started as a modest way to support herself slowly turned into a thriving business that provided stability and independence. Meanwhile, the man who once blamed her for everything found himself facing the consequences of his own deception. Before we continue to the next story, take a moment to tell me where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments and subscribe if you enjoy stories like this, because the next one might surprise you even more.